The reply letters from the Empress Dowager and Ho Duyan-chi arrived on time. Ho Duyan-chi on the other side naturally agreed to everything, temporarily not mentioning it. The letter from the Empress Dowager, on the contrary, made me a little surprised. The Empress Dowager said that Yi Ningxuan had already started to go to court to listen to the government affairs. The people were all gossiping. The emperor was doing this because he intended to establish a crown prince. Many ministers were observing, waiting for Yi Ningxuan to do some good things. Then someone would want to take action. After reading it, I couldn't help but laugh coldly. I was outside leading troops to fight, yet my emperor was so leisurely, even had the mind to pave the way for Yi Ningxuan. In the early years, my emperor also fought for the world, and made many achievements. At that time my two maternal uncles were still alive. The world had not yet been decided, the final throne of the emperor was unknown. After that, my maternal grandfather * and paternal uncle passed away one after another, and I took over the Guo family army, and my father's position as emperor became even more secure. * Maternal grandfather, often used to refer to maternal grandparents in a formal and polite manner. Living long is also a kind of ability. I stood by the window, curled my fingers and tapped lightly on the window frame. The incense burner on the small table beside me was emitting incense smoke, drifting up. "What are you thinking about?" After Wang Yu finished arranging the books, he raised his head to look at me. "Thinking about how to cause more trouble for the emperor and Lin Sanyang." Hearing this, Wang Yu curled his lips, still with the elegant and gentle appearance like the wind blowing through the clear moon. "Your Majesty is the one who rode a horse to conquer the world. How could the successor not have any military achievements? Without the crown prince's military power in his hands, wouldn't he be torn apart by others in the future?" Hearing the zither and understanding the meaning, I folded the paper, and said with a smile, "Zi Hui is very right. This second brother of mine has been lazy since he was young, and he didn't have any achievements under my command in the past. Now that the war in Beiliao is about to break out, it's a good opportunity to make a name for himself. Why don't young men bring their hooks and take over 50 Guanshan prefectures? In that case, Father Emperor will definitely be very happy. As long as Yi Ningxuan is moved to Dingbei County, I naturally have a way to make sure he can never touch the throne of Crown Prince again." Thinking of this, I couldn't help but laugh coldly. Most of my younger brothers and sisters aren't close to me. They only see that fighting in the East and West is not a woman's duty, and behind my back they even want to mock me with the words yiksha. But they themselves have no ability, enjoying the benefits behind my back, and still expecting me to be able to work for them in the future. It's really ridiculous to the extreme. If I already look down on women who hold military positions, I want to sit in an even higher position, so that each of them can only kneel down to see me. Half a month later, the Beiliao army was approaching the border. News came from the imperial capital. The second prince was already on his way here. The day Yi Ningxuan arrived at Dingbei County, he was very imposing, riding a white horse, carrying a golden knife, truly a free and easygoing appearance. Unfortunately, Dingbei County's terrain was dangerous, the road was difficult to travel. This autumn it rained a lot. That handsome young man in white was covered in mud, looking really miserable. When I met Yi Ningxuan, both sides of his cheeks were covered in mud. I didn't know which way he had gone. It was as if he had crawled out of a mud puddle. I had to try very hard to suppress the smile on the corner of my lips. The people behind me were not so polite. Surueiji said, "We have known each other for so long. I really didn't expect that Prince Kun would have this hobby, like rolling around in mud puddles."
Ha! 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 Ha!
Yi Ningxuan's face turned green as he stared at me, gritting his teeth and saying, "Yi Shiguang. Are you trying to make me lose face? Don't think too highly of yourself, the great enemy is right in front of me. I don't have the heart to pay attention to you." The black-armored man behind Yi Ningxuan pulled him back, shaking his head expressionlessly. Yi Ningxuan frowned, but didn't say anything more. I couldn't help but raise my eyebrows. This black-armored man looked unfamiliar. I really didn't know his background. I had to investigate thoroughly. I led everyone back to the front of the tent, continuing to study the sand table. Yi Ningxuan and the others also squeezed in, silently listening. The soldiers of Beiliao are scattered, most of them are distributed around Dingbei County. Small forces are also easy to deal with. I raised my head and looked at Su Ruizhi. Ruizhi, you lead 500 soldiers, first wipe out these ragtag remnants, avoid when the main army approaches, they bully the civilians again. Yi Ningxuan couldn't help but interject, woman's heart. I coldly glanced at him, if your skin itches, then come out and take the baton yourself. Today I'll make it clear here, Yi Shiguang, lead troops into battle. I don't like outsiders to talk too much. You all stay calm and keep your place. I naturally won't make things difficult for you, but whoever dares to cause trouble for me, I will sacrifice him. You dare? Father Emperor, let me. Yi Ningxuan, have you eaten any more of my baton? You've gotten used to living a comfortable life in the imperial capital, have you forgotten? I sneered, I'm your older sister, I can help you remember. Yi Ningxuan's face turned pale. The situation forced him, people grew up in adversity, he just held back and didn't say anything. It was both embarrassing, keeping quiet was better than being dragged out and beaten. In just 3 days, the remnants of the northern Liao army in Dingbei County were completely wiped out, as agreed between me and Huyan Qi. That night, I personally led 8,000 elite soldiers, circled around the northern mountain slope, and suddenly attacked Huyan's camp. The blade light was cold as iron, the crescent moon curved, the horses' legs were wrapped in soft cloth. I led my men to silently cut the necks of the northern Liao guards. Brothers, follow me and charge in, take Huyan's head, and use it as a urinal for the strategist. At the same time, Wang Yu and Su Ruizhi led the main force to support me from the front. Huyan Qi directly attacked Huyan's lair, attacked from both sides. Huyan's had no way to retreat, and led the remaining remnants to flee back to Liaodong. The war was going very smoothly, waiting for a few more years. The border was open for trade, for such a long time, the people of the border could rest assured. There is only one thing, I'm afraid that the emperor and Lin Sanyang will be heartbroken to death. Yi Ningxuan disregarded the obstruction and led his troops to pursue and kill Hui Yuan Ta, but was unfortunately captured by the Liao soldiers. Fortunately, Wang Yu arranged everything properly and caught up with the Liao soldiers, saving Yi Ningxuan. It's just that Hui Yuan Ta was ruthless and broke both of Yi Ningxuan's legs on the spot. Although his life was not in danger, he would never be able to stand up again for the rest of his life. Alas, he had not yet achieved any military feats, and the position of crown prince was becoming more and more distant. When I went to visit him, the black-armored man was by his bedside. When he saw me enter, he glared at me. I thought Yi Ningxuan had invited some hero, but it turns out he was just a dog in mourning. Intelligence news came back, this black-armored man was the nephew of the previous dynasty's King Kong. King Kong was indeed a hero. He and I had fought several times, and although our positions were different, we still admired each other. Unfortunately, the father was a hero, but the son was not a good man. The son of King Kong died early, the only grandson betrayed his grandfather for glory and wealth, and joined hands with the emperor of the previous dynasty to kill King Kong. It was pitiful for a famous general, not dying on the battlefield but dying in the imperial court. This black-armored man was the grandson of King Kong. Unexpectedly, he was dragged closer by Yi Ningxuan. They were indeed of the same ilk, their stench matched. The grandson of King Kang's expression changed, and he said coldly, the second prince in Dingbei County was so badly injured, isn't King Wuan afraid of the emperor's reprimand? I laughed and shook my head, we haven't seen each other for several years, why are you still so stupid? A son with a broken leg, and a daughter who can guard the border, guess who my father values more? My father is still in his prime after all, sons, there's no shortage, let alone, I whispered maliciously, he didn't die either? King Kang's nephew suddenly widened his eyes, you did it on purpose. You intentionally lured King Quan to Din Bac district. I just smiled and didn't say anything, raising my eyebrows at him. Guess. Autumn passed and winter came, the days and months passed like flowing water. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. 3 years ago, Yi Ningxuan returned to Dingbei County. Lying in bed, it was said that the emperor was extremely angry, but to tell the truth, it was Yi Ningxuan who brought death upon himself. Who could be blamed? This debt could only be placed on Hui Yuanzai in the end. The emperor issued 3 consecutive imperial edicts, wanting me to lead troops to Liaoxi to avenge his beloved son. I saw that he had been sitting on the dragon throne for so long that his butt was hot, and his mind was no longer clear, so I replied with a letter, saying, "Is the emperor wanting to give the throne to the Tan Prince?" According to the Empress Dowager, this letter almost made the emperor angry to the point of having a stroke, but he could do nothing to me. After going to Zhongshan Palace to vent his anger for a while, the Empress Dowager was chased back to Yangxin Palace with a stick by the Empress Dowager. The Queen Mother said, "Shi Guang, I have wasted 40 years, I should have cultivated myself and my character. But your father is incompetent and useless, I can only temporarily use the whip to teach him on behalf of my mother-in-law." Very good. Just looking at the Queen Mother's letter, one can see that people in the capital are living very well. In the past 3 years, the relationship between Wang Yu and I has become deeper and deeper. Dingbei County has also restored its farms, and trade with Liaobei has become a prosperous and vibrant region. In the imperial court, those of humble origin recommended by the Queen Mother, along with the descendants of the 4 great families of Guanlong, have also established their footholds. If we really talk about power in the imperial court, even the emperor would not dare to confront me. Once a person has power, it is inevitable that there will be flatterers. In recent years, countless handsome young men have been brought to my tent, causing Wang Lang to turn pale with anger. I am truly sorry. In September, the emperor's father was born, and he issued an edict to summon me back to the capital. Wan Bao personally welcomed me into the city. After 3 years of not seeing him, he still had the same round face and fat eyebrows. His Royal Highness Wuen's demeanor is still the same. Today, thanks to your Highness's blessing, this old servant has the opportunity to go out and see the capital. Is your imperial father well? Wan Bao smiled brightly. His Majesty is very well recently, but I just miss your Highness a little. Luckily, I have concubine Lin to keep me company. I slightly moved my eyebrows and curled my lips. Lin Xiao has been in the palace for more than 2 years, right? I heard that noble concubine Lin and concubine Lin are biological aunt and niece, and they look very similar? Wan Bao nodded. That's right, concubine Lin is exactly like noble concubine when she was young. The Empress Dowager is truly virtuous. If it weren't for your Highness finding concubine Lin, this story wouldn't have happened. I ordered someone to reward Wan Bao, thinking to myself that I really can't compare to Empress Dowager Mother's methods. 3 years ago, Yi Ningxuan broke his leg, Lin Sanyang cried day and night, and the emperor was also gloomy and sad. The Empress Dowager said that she could not see the palace so gloomy, and wanted to recruit new concubines for the emperor. The emperor still had old feelings, so she refused. The Empress Dowager then brought Lin Xiao into the palace, and the emperor immediately fell in love. Lin Xiao was Lin Sanyang's biological niece, they looked the same, but she was younger. The emperor's dry heart was suddenly watered, it was like a drought meeting a shower. On one side was the old love crying day and night, on the other side was the new person gently pampering. The emperor's heart naturally leaned towards Lin Xiao. This Lin Xiao was actually an old acquaintance of mine. Lin Sanyang had a half-brother, who was killed by bandits during the war in order to save Lin Sanyang. Lin Xiao witnessed with her own eyes her father being dismembered, and her mother committing suicide. Speaking of life-saving grace, one should take good care of the benefactor's daughter, let alone a blood relative, but Lin Sanyang was selfish to the core. On the way to escape, she abandoned Lin Xiao, who was suffering from a high fever, on the side of the road, not caring about life or death. It just so happened that I led the army to pass by and saved Lin Xiao, who was gasping for breath. From then on, the two of them became enemies. Lin Xiao's family was ruined, she only wished to eat Lin Sanyang alive. This chess piece had not been used yet, until Yi Ningxuan broke his leg. The Empress Dowager let Lin Xiao show herself. I sighed and said to Wang Yu, Lin Sanyang only cares about her own comfort in everything she does, she has never cared about the life or death of others. There is no one in the family who cannot sacrifice for her, she deserves this retribution. Wang Yu said, living in this world, one only seeks peace of mind. Entering the palace, Wang Yu and I went to see the emperor first. After not seeing each other for 3 years, the emperor seemed to have aged a bit. There was a wrinkle between his eyebrows, it seemed that sitting on the dragon throne was not very happy. 3 years without seeing each other, I don't even know how to write a letter home. The emperor's usual words still gave me goosebumps. Fortunately, the emperor didn't say much nonsense, chatting with me about Dingbei County, then discussing the situation in Shuzhong. In the past few years that I hadn't been to Shuzhong, the Zanwang and the emperor had fought several times, some won and some lost, but neither had gained any advantage. Listening to the emperor's intentions, it seemed that he had the intention to conquer Shuzhong, but still hadn't figured out who to let lead the troops. Judging from the situation of victory and defeat, it would be most suitable for you to go, but the army in Dingbei County cannot be short of people, sigh. This sounds good, but they don't let me go, it's just that they're afraid that the Guo army will take over Shuzhong, making a big family and making people restless. I thought to myself that this was good, it would save me trouble. The emperor even gave my future fiancé a few words of encouragement, acting like a kind father. Leaving the Yangxin palace, Wang Yu rubbed his belly. It's been a long time since I've been to the palace, I'm really a bit unfamiliar. You're not used to chatting with my emperor. Wang Yu shook his head and smiled bitterly. After seeing the Empress Dowager, Wang Yu and I returned to our own residence. After all, we were not married yet, so we couldn't let Wang Yu stay in our residence. 3 days later, the emperor held a banquet, saying it was a family banquet, wanting the whole family to reunite. Wang Yu and I went together, and several brothers had arrived early. During the banquet, Yi Luwei and the son-in-law sat on the same side, and Yi Ningxuan was indeed absent. It was said that after breaking his leg, he rarely met other people, even Lin Sanyang didn't get to see him often. After many years of not seeing each other, the feelings between Yi Luwei and I were still the same. As soon as she saw me, her face fell. Humph, some people are really shameless. After harming my elder brother, they still dare to come to the family banquet. I pretended not to understand. What are you talking about, third sister? Who harmed my elder brother? Among us siblings, only Yi Ningxuan has had an accident. What, are you planning to accept Hu Yuantao as your father? Little sister is too much. How dare you speak to me like that? What don't I dare, tell me? Yi Liuwei's eyes were red. I am the daughter that the emperor loves the most. You are just an abandoned child. Luwei, shut up. The 2 aunts and nieces, Lin Sanyang, came with the emperor, one on the left and one on the right, standing beside the emperor. The emperor frowned slightly, glanced at Yi Luwei with a displeased expression, and said, Luwei, you are already married, why do you speak so thoughtlessly? Lin Sanyang forced a smile. Luwei has no scheming, doesn't know how to speak. Your Majesty, don't you understand her? She called out to Yi Luwei, why don't you quickly apologize to your elder sister? Yi Luwei stubbornly refused to speak. Lin Sanyang's eyes were fierce. Luwei. The prince consort cautiously tugged on Yi Liuwei's sleeve, softly advising. Only then did Yi Luwei snort, elder sister, don't blame me. I glanced at the son-in-law, thinking that Lin Sanyang was really good at choosing a son-in-law. That year, Yi Luwei felt embarrassed and refused to marry. In the end, Lin Sanyang chose the second son of the Marquis of Xinyuan Manor for her. The Marquis of Xinyuan Manor's family style was strict and the brothers were in harmony. The son-in-law had a gentle temperament and was truly a good husband. Unfortunately, Yi Luwei was always dissatisfied. These years, she often quarreled with the son-in-law and even raised a male pet in the princess's mansion, having fun every night. TSK, the son-in-law was from a decent family, but he was cuckolded and laughed at by the world. I don't know if this was a marriage or an enemy. Today is a family banquet. The Empress is not feeling well. Let's go to the banquet first. The Empress Dowager never attended these family banquets, and everyone here was already used to it. There were only two Lin Fei, one on the left and one on the right, sitting beside the emperor. Lin Xiao's waist was slender and her eyes were sparkling, truly a youthful age, making Lin Sanyang, although still charming, look a bit haggard. She personally picked up food for the emperor, and the few times our eyes met, it was filled with worship and admiration. No wonder the emperor was so reluctant. The emperor raised his cup and invited us to drink together. Lin Xiao smiled shyly at the side. "Your Majesty, I can't drink." The emperor hurriedly asked, "Is there anything wrong with my beloved concubine?" The maid behind Lin Xiao smiled and said, "Reporting to your Majesty, our concubine is already 3 months pregnant." The emperor hurriedly ordered someone to clear away all the cold food on Lin Xiao's table, and happily stroked Lin Xiao's hand. I raised my head to look at Lin Sanyang above. Her makeup couldn't hide her pale complexion, her slender fingers tightly gripped the wine cup, her smile revealing a forced expression. Wang Yu took the opportunity to whisper in my ear, "This time there's a good show to watch." I don't know how Lin Sanyang felt at this moment, it was definitely not pleasant. It seemed that the emperor's true love was really cheap. Halfway through the banquet, on the way to the dressing room, I waited for Lin Xiao. Her figure was as graceful as a willow, showing no signs of pregnancy. Lin Xiao held my hand, her eyes red as she said, "Is the general in Dingbei County well?" I held her hand again. "You don't need to worry about me. Are you used to living in the palace? You have to take good care of yourself." She didn't answer me, but asked, "The young master beside the general today, is that young master Wang? Is he serving the general well?" I looked into Lin Xiao's earnest eyes, and couldn't help but turn my face away. No matter how, one cannot imagine what it would be like for Wang Yu to serve others. "Don't worry." Lin Xiao still wasn't at ease, and said again, "The general is a man of great ambition, how could he not have a few confidants by his side?" She bit her lip. "The general is busy with military affairs all year round, and has never seen any fighting for favor in the harem. In the future, your mistress, no, your husband, must not be jealous." Thinking of Wang Yu who was standing behind the corridor, I almost froze in place, forcing a smile and saying, "Don't worry, Zihui is not that kind of person." She let out a sigh, and earnestly said, "It's a pity that the general and I are both daughters, and cannot serve you." Before I knew how to start the conversation, Lin Xiao's maid hurriedly walked over and said anxiously, "Your Majesty, His Majesty is looking for someone." Lin Xiao frowned in disgust. "All right, I'll go back right away." When she was about to leave, she grabbed my hand and said, "General, I have finished sewing your autumn clothes. I will send someone to your residence tomorrow." After Lin Xiao left, Wang Yu walked out from the back corridor and said with a bitter smile, "I didn't know that this rival in love also has a woman? General, when do you plan to let me serve you?" I have already said that I shouldn't let Wang Yu get to know Lin Xiao. She has learned her lesson. Wang Zihui was still not satisfied. "I heard that the mistress of the general's residence is very fierce. I don't know if she can tolerate me or not. When the time comes, you must back me up." I considered life and death as light as a feather, tiptoed and hugged Wang Yu's shoulder. "Don't worry, if she doesn't agree, I will take care of you outside. My husband is truly heartless, making me feel very heartbroken." Lin Xiao was pregnant. My father was excited, giving her rewards one after another, only wanting to make Lin Xiao a noble consort. It was still Lin Xiao herself who said, wait until the prince is born to give rewards. After all, we have to give face to our aunt. Unfortunately, my father couldn't hold back. The day before the birthday banquet, he made Lin Xiao a noble consort, with the title Wan. Although the title was to avoid Lin Sanyang, but adding another title, it was still different. Because of Lin Xiao being made a noble consort, something happened secretly at my father's birthday banquet. During the banquet, everyone had different expressions, but Yi Luwei, who was sitting below me, was happy. She looked at me arrogantly and said, "My cousin and my mother are both noble consorts now, the Lin family is being favored, can you still surpass me?" Hearing this, the son-in-law almost spat out his wine, his expression complicated as he looked at his wife. Perhaps he had never seen a woman with such unusual thoughts, momentarily losing control. I laughed and said, "Lu Wei is right, truly wise, this elder sister is impressed." Yi Lu Wei remained silent, her eyes hesitantly looking at me, perhaps momentarily unable to distinguish good from bad. Today, Yi Ningxuan also came. When the palace maid pushed him in, I almost didn't recognize him. His face was pale, as if he hadn't seen the sunlight for a long time, his cheeks were sunken, his expression was gloomy, only his eyes were bright, as if there were a myriad of emotions surging. The wheelchair touched the floor, the wheels made a loud noise. Passing in front of my table, he raised his hand to signal to stop. "Elder sister, it's been many years since we last saw each other, I miss you so much." I smiled charmingly and said, "I miss you so much too, can your legs still stand?" Yi Ningxuan was stunned, his eyes seemed to stab me. If eyes could kill, he would have chopped me into 100 pieces by now. I pretended not to notice, and continued, You are reckless. I told you not to chase after him before, but you didn't listen. Look, your legs are broken in Hui Yuan's hands." I spoke more and more earnestly, "But don't worry, elder sister knows that you are suffering in your heart. If there is a chance in the future, she will definitely bring Hui Yuan's head to you, so you can put your feet up." Yi Ningxuan's face twitched a few times, he was panting, his expression became even more gloomy. Seeing this, the palace servants hurriedly pushed him back to his seat. The younger brothers and sisters looked at each other, and immediately changed seats, separating the two of us. The son-in-law stared blankly, until he was scolded by Yi Lu Wei in front of everyone, then he lowered his head. In the seat of the ladies, the Marquis of Shenyuan saw this scene, tightly clenched her handkerchief and did not speak, her eyes filled with gloom. As a parent, seeing her son being scolded by his wife like a servant in front of everyone, one would definitely feel uncomfortable. Lin Sanyang had already made careful calculations, but unfortunately she gave birth to a stupid daughter. My mother glanced at Yi Lu Wei, seeing that Lin Sanyang had no intention of saying anything, she coldly opened her mouth. "Why is Changel still so hasty after getting married? You have always studied the rules by your mother's side, don't embarrass Consort Lin anymore." "Consort Lin, if you can't bear to teach the princess the rules, I can send someone to teach you." Consort Lin's face immediately turned as black as the bottom of a pot. "No need for the empress to worry." Yi Lu Wei snorted, stubbornly not saying anything more. My father and Lin Xiao were late again, the emperor and empress were at odds, these years they had never appeared together, it was not strange. It's just that every year it's Lam Tam Nuong and my father, but this year it's changed to Imperial Noble Consort Van. Everyone exchanged glances for a moment. After all, the emperor's heart is hard to predict. This Imperial Noble Consort Van looks kind. Halfway through the banquet, Wang Yu returned with a gloomy face. I asked him in a low voice what had happened. Wang Yu, who rarely showed his emotions, laughed coldly. He raised his hand and took out half a piece of paper from his sleeve. The ink was already smudged, and the shape was no longer visible. "Just now, I happened to meet the third princess in the small bamboo forest. The third princess said that she told me to choose a good tree to perch on." I rolled my eyes. Yi Lu Wei? Is she crazy? At this moment, Yi Lu Wei was really not in her seat. Only the prince consort was pouring and drinking, looking lonely. I swallowed my saliva and thought to myself, I only knew that Yi Luwei was an idiot, but I didn't expect her to be very ambitious. Looking at the situation, Yi Luwei really considered Lin Jiao a member of the Lin family, and considered herself a helper. This kind of idiot had a good point. Once something was decided and overthrown, they wouldn't care about any long-term plans, and would immediately become angry. This is a good thing for me. Lam Tam Noong raised her daughter to be so stupid, it is her right to suffer the consequences. I was bowing my head in deep thought, when suddenly I heard Lin Sanyang calling me. This palace has not seen the eldest princess for many years. Has the wedding date of the princess and Wang Yu been set yet? I lowered my eyes, not saying anything. Lin Sanyang did not mind, and softly said, Your Majesty, I have something to say, but I don't know whether I should say it or not. Just say it, don't be shy. The princess still has the Guo family's tiger talisman on her. Will she be given to the Langyao Wang clan as a dowry at that time? She looked at my father with her beautiful sparkling eyes, her expression innocent, as if she had just said it casually. But these words were like cold water poured into boiling oil. The atmosphere in the palace instantly boiled. My father's eyes lit up. Lin Sanyang continued to say, This is really too worrying, eldest princess. I think you might as well take the tiger talisman as a birthday gift today, and hand it over to His Majesty. I twitched the corner of my mouth, not wanting to say anything. If the military power in my hands could be taken back with just a few words, then why would my father have to endure my mother? No wonder Yi Luwei was so stupid that he didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. It turns out that dragons give birth to dragons, phoenixes give birth to phoenixes, and mice that give birth to their children know how to dig holes. Before I even needed to say anything, the ministers of the Guo faction at the banquet opened their mouths one after another, citing classics, from head to toe criticizing Lin Sanyang, speaking to the point that she almost rolled her eyes. It was still Lin Jiao who smiled and helped her out. Is Aunt drunk? Today is His Majesty's birthday, don't say these unpleasant things anymore. Ru Tang, quickly take Aunt to change clothes and rest for a while. Ru Tang was as if she had been pardoned, and hurriedly took the dazed Lin Sanyang down. My father's face turned pale, and his anger was finally directed at Lam Tam Noong. He coldly said, You're already old, but you still don't understand things. Because of Lin Sanyang's arrogant remark, my father's birthday banquet ended in an awkward atmosphere. I originally only wanted to return to the capital to attend the birthday banquet. Since the birthday banquet was over, I should return to my fiefdom. Therefore, my Empress Dowager specially issued an edict, saying that she had not seen her mother for many years and wanted to keep me here for a few more days, so that my deputy general could return to Dingbei County. My Empress Dowager kept me here, of course not because she was reluctant. That day, after the birthday banquet ended, I immediately told Lin Jiao about Yi Luwei's shocking actions. If I knew how to take advantage of them, I might be able to deal a fatal blow to Lin Sanyang. At that time, Lin Jiao pondered for a moment, then thought of a plan to sow discord. She said, Lin Sanyang's foundation is His Majesty's affection. If His Majesty changes his mind, she will soon collapse. I did not say anything, and after lowering my head for a long time, I said, Chiao, I do not only want Lin Sanyang to collapse. What the general is thinking, Chi Dao knows, no man in this world can compare to the general. She looked at me earnestly, gently saying, I will do my best to help the general complete the great cause. I shook my head, Chi Dao, you don't understand what I mean. To me, you are much more important than Lin Sanyang. No matter what you do, you must protect yourself. Lin Chi Dao bit her lip, General, don't worry. 3 days after my father's birthday banquet, news came from the palace. Yi Luwei had offended Imperial Noble Consort Wan, and even attacked Imperial Noble Consort, causing blood to flow on the spot. When I entered the palace, Wan Bao welcomed me, worriedly saying, The third princess has caused trouble. now hiding in the imperial noble consort Lin's palace and refusing to come out. His Majesty is very angry, and has already thrown a tantrum. Is imperial noble consort Wan okay? Wan Bao said, Imperial noble consort Wan is in good health, she is fine. I breathed a sigh of relief and followed Wan Bao into the palace with peace of mind. At this time, my father was still sitting in Lin Jiyao's palace. Seeing me enter, he didn't say anything, just had a gloomy expression. From the bedroom, Lin Jiyao's sobbing came out, Your Majesty must take responsibility for this concubine. My father was extremely heartbroken, but didn't know what to do. After all, this matter was caused by his own daughter. I asked in a low voice, Third sister and imperial noble consort Wan are cousins, they are usually close, how could they do this kind of thing? Lin Jiyao cried miserably. His Highness Changlu asked me, after I have a son, will I still recognize my aunt? His Highness said that everything is about my aunt. His Highness is still not satisfied, he insists that I kneel down and swear, promising to help Prince Kun seize the throne in the future. How could this concubine dare to make such an oath? Isn't this cursing Your Majesty? This concubine is loyal to Your Majesty, how could she do this? Who would have thought that the princess would be angry and call the palace servants to torture this concubine? Your Majesty, the child in this concubine's womb is truly pitiful. If it weren't for the palace servants protecting her, this concubine would not have been able to return alive to see you today. This concubine truly doesn't know where she offended the princess. The more the emperor heard, his face became darker and darker. Yi Liuwei's actions were clearly slapping him in the face, and it was also related to the crown prince's position. I was by the side adding fuel to the fire, Liuwei's actions are too much. How did imperial noble consort Lin teach her? Third sister was at most a little unruly before, but not to this extent. Emperor father's face was already ugly, and after hearing me, it became even darker. He sneered, that's right, without anyone teaching her, Cheng Li's brain would never think of such a thing. The emperor was furious and rushed straight to Lin Sanyang's palace. At this moment, he no longer cared about true or false love. His heart was filled with anger. My emperor, in the first half of his life, he relied on his wife's family to help him wholeheartedly, and in the second half of his life, he relied on his daughter to fight on the battlefield. Therefore, he always felt that this emperor's position was not secure enough. The thing he feared most was that someone would covet his power. Seeing Lin Sanyang today, I'm afraid she won't be able to escape a disaster. Qi Dao, are you okay? As soon as the emperor left, Lin Jidao wiped her tears and sat up, sneering, Yi Liuwei is so stupid that it scared me. I only showed a little bit of hope for the child in my belly. She listened to the nonsense analysis of the advisors in the palace, and actually wanted me to make a promise to her on the spot. At that time, I almost burst out laughing. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to catch her weakness, but I didn't expect her to present herself to me. Lin Jiao used the child in her belly as bait to stir up conflict between the emperor and Lin Sanyang. In the following days, she just let them tear each other apart. It was said that on that day, the emperor went straight to Lin Sanyang and slapped her. Still not satisfied, he scolded her again. The mother and daughter cried bitterly, while the emperor was heartless. He returned to the Yanghe palace and ordered someone to draft an imperial edict to scold Yi Ningxuan. He said that he had a physical disability and could not become the crown prince. He often lamented and blamed himself, and must have been filled with resentment. He told him to stay home and cultivate his character. To put it bluntly, he was telling Yi Ningxuan, my position as emperor will never be yours. You better be obedient for me. The day he received the imperial edict, Yi Ningxuan was so angry that he vomited blood. Receiving the news, Wang Yu and I were sitting in the pavilion making tea. The water was boiling, outside the pavilion the drizzle was flying. Wang Lang personally made tea for me, This scene was as beautiful as a painting. I said, I still remember that year. Yi Ningxuan was favored, the emperor worked hard to pave the way for him. Now in just 3 years things have changed, it is truly difficult to predict people's hearts. Wang Yu's expression was gentle. Your Majesty has long hated him. That year, Prince Kun was beaten by Hu Yuanzhua and had both legs broken, causing your Majesty to lose all face. I laughed. That's right, this emperor of ours, what he fears most in his life is losing face. Why don't we guess, after this incident, what will Yi Ningxuan choose? Wang Yu smiled. Prince Kun will absolutely not give up. The two of us looked at each other, and said in unison, Prince Kun/Shu Zhong. That day when I discovered the Sun King, I sent someone to investigate Yi Ningxuan. I didn't expect that my good second brother, not only was he in the same boat as the Sun King, but he was also colluding with the Tan King's faction. Now that the cornered dog has reached the end of its rope, I guess Yi Ningxuan wants to use extreme measures. Sure enough, Su Ruiji's secret letter said that there was a change in Shuzhong. The Prince of Tan wanted to lead troops out of Shuzhong, which was a far-fetched idea normally, but now it was different. Shuzhong and the Lin family's fiefdom were not far apart. If the Lin family were willing to open the gates, this army could directly enter the central region of the Great Zhou, heading straight for the imperial capital. According to Wan Bao, these past few days Lin Sanyang had been gentle and soft-spoken, always looking for His Majesty to reminisce about the past, making the emperor remember some of the old friendship. Occasionally, she would come to her palace to sit for a while. I guess that the emperor felt that he had punished Yi Ningxuan too harshly, so he wanted to make it up to Lin Sanyang. Yi Ningxuan's secret letters were continuously sent out, and Wan Bao reported on the emperor's whereabouts every day. These two father and daughter were really similar, both of them were not very capable, and were also arrogant. The emperor trusted Wan Bao very much, but he didn't know that he was the Empress Dowager's man from the beginning. In these years, the emperor had never escaped from the Empress Dowager's palm. That year, he thought that the matter between him and Lin Sanyang was unknown to anyone, but unexpectedly, there was a secret letter on the Empress Dowager's desk every day, and it was even clear when Lin Sanyang was pregnant. That year, his maternal grandfather had 2 sons and 1 daughter, and 2 uncles who were ambitious for fame and fortune, but had poor talents. In order to protect the family business and their sons during the chaos, the maternal grandfather, despite the Empress Dowager's objections, decided to marry her to the emperor. The Empress Dowager said that Yi Hong was a person, and might not know how to repay gratitude, while the maternal grandfather said that people who accomplished great things did not care about small details, and as long as the Guo family was still alive, Yi Hong would never let down the Empress Dowager. As a result, after 6 years of marriage, the maternal grandfather passed away, and the emperor brought Lin Sanyang and her son back. When I was 17, both of my paternal uncles died in battle at Pingdu Pass. I personally led the army and risked my life to capture Pingdu Pass. When I took over the Guo army, there were only 30,000 soldiers. Now the prestige of the Guo army is all mine, while my father sits back and enjoys the benefits of being the emperor without having to suffer any hardships. I don't know who is weaving the brocade and embroidering the flowers for others to enjoy. On the 18th of September, Shuzhong was in chaos, and the county governor had rebelled. The emperor was terrified and immediately dispatched troops to punish him. That night, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse, and the night was as dark as water. The emperor hurriedly called me into the palace. The camellia in front of the Yanghe Palace bloomed and withered, and after so many years, it was only a few seasons of blooming. The emperor had aged a lot, and there were dark circles under his eyes. When he saw me enter, he revealed a gentle smile. "Shi Guang, it's been a long time since your father and I talked privately." My expression did not change. "Imperial father, you should keep it short." The emperor was speechless. He laughed at himself, and sighed. "I know you blame me, but at that time I was helpless. Your mother was so forced, and the Guo family was also extremely wealthy. I also had to consider the great Zhou. I was sick of hearing this, so I pulled a chair and sat down, propping my chin up to look at him. Fortunately, the emperor realized my impatience and finally got to the main point. The second prince should not be involved now. The third prince and the fourth prince, the third prince is of average intelligence, the fourth prince is even more unsuitable, the imperial noble consort Wan's belly is unknown to be a boy or a girl, no one can take on the responsibility. I want to pass the throne to the third prince, Shi Guang. I will also appoint you as the regent prince. Are you willing to assist the third prince? The candle at night crackled. I thought to myself, why does the emperor always think that I will willingly bow my head and submit to others? Imperial father, of course I will protect the great Zhou country. Of course, the position of emperor must be left to me. Good, good, good. Shi Guang, your mother has given birth to a good daughter for me. I couldn't help but laugh coldly, once again sighing, from ancient times until now, being an emperor really requires a thick skin. No matter what bad things one has done, as long as one says a few sweet words, others will be grateful and absolutely loyal. Sometimes, I really doubt where the emperor's confidence comes from. After receiving my promise, the emperor's mood is much better, even looking at the people around him is more pleasing to the eye. Lin Xiao listened to my instructions, saying that she wanted to rest her pregnancy, go to a villa in the suburbs, to make room for Lin Sanyang to show off her skills. Lin Sanyang has been jumping around these past few days, bringing soup and water every day, even bringing two beauties, coaxing the emperor's face to be rosy. Even the war in Shushong is no longer worrying. Weakness is the grave of heroes. The emperor is really old, he doesn't understand this little thing. I asked Wan Bao to bring the conversation between me and the emperor to the prince's palace that day. On the first day of the 10th month, the emperor was poisoned, and the palace was in chaos. Lin Sanyang stayed by his side day and night, investigating the matter thoroughly. The Empress Dowager did not even step out of the central palace. 4 days later, the commander of the Imperial Guard led troops to surround the large and small gates of the imperial capital. A group of Imperial Guards stormed into the third and fourth princes' residences, killing until blood flowed like rivers. The great army of the Tan Prince pressed forward, from the Lin family's fiefdom straight to the outskirts of the capital. Yi Ningxuan led people to the palace to protect the emperor. That night, the imperial palace was in flames, and the emperor had no father-son relationship. Putting away the last secret letter, I held Wang Yu's hand and smiled. Wang Lang, after today, this king can give you a title. Wang Yu lowered his eyes and chuckled. Wait for good news. Su Ruizhi had already led troops to the outskirts to guard the major fortresses. If the Tan Prince dared to come this time, I would dare to let him come and not return. Waiting for the Imperial Guards to kill almost all the people who needed to be killed, Jin Yuanho and the Crown Prince led troops to quell the rebellion, capturing the Imperial Guard commander alive at the foot of Xiqing. The rest was the matter of the royal family in that magnificent palace. When I entered the palace, Yi Ningxuan had already been tied up and thrown on the ground. Lin Sanyang and Yi Luwei were also tied up together, squatting in the corner of the wall. My mother was sitting majestically beside my father's bed. My father had met with a great disaster, and was now breathing weakly, almost dying. Seeing me enter, Yi Ningxuan screamed like crazy. I ordered someone to remove the cloth covering his mouth, and he immediately started cursing. I coldly said, "Second brother, you don't have much longer to live, say something useful." My father's old voice rang out, "Rebellious son, why, did you rebel?" His entire face was red, his speech was intermittent, his chest was heaving violently. Yi Ningxuan laughed heartily, laughing until tears flowed out. "Imperial father, you said you would pass the throne to me. I am the son you love the most. Yi Shiguang framed me, you didn't even dare to punish her."
Ha! 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 Ha!
"My imperial mother followed you without a name or status. At first you said that you would let her become the empress, but what was the result? She couldn't be the empress, even that lowly maid Lin Jiao could step on her face. You're not worthy of being a father. Imperial father was so angry that his eyes rolled back. I was really afraid that he would immediately stop breathing. Beast, beast. The Empress Dowager and I sat leisurely on one side, watching them tear each other apart. The Empress Dowager even kindly added, Your Majesty, calm down, or you'll die faster. Lin Sanyang groaned. I also ordered someone to untie her. Her mental state was very similar to Yi Ningxuan's. Her smile looked quite creepy. Your Majesty, now our whole family is reunited in the afterlife.
Ha! 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 Ha!
I've long been fed up with these troublesome matters. At first, if you hadn't said you would marry me as your main wife, why would I have followed you? My Xian has suffered so much injustice, yet you refuse to make it up to him. Why don't you pass the throne to him? I don't know where Lin Sanyang got the strength from. She rushed to the bed, biting my father's face. My father screamed miserably, but couldn't push Lin Sanyang away. He was about to die. Kill, kill. When Lin Sanyang was pulled out, her eyes were already bloodshot. She glared at her father and laughed like a madwoman. Your Majesty, what I gave you to eat was the broken heart grass. Cherish your last moments. She once again broke free from the palace servants and banged her head to death beside her father's bed. Before she died, her face was covered in blood. The Empress Dowager saw that her father was just a dying light, so she ordered someone to take Yi Luwei, who had been scared stiff, down, ignoring Yi Ningxuan, who had completely lost the ability to act. Yi Hong, after a while of husband and wife, I'll let you die clearly. At this moment, the emperor's face was already purple, and he was speechless. The Empress Dowager's expression was calm, her eyes were bright, as if there was fire burning. The Battle of Pingdu Pass, my two incompetent elder brothers died in my hands. The emperor turned his head in surprise and doubt, but the Empress Dowager didn't look at him, and continued speaking on her own. I knew you guys were colluding. I've even read the 3 secret letters between you and them on the table. You guys want to join forces, you marry my niece, he hands over his military power. A great plan. Without spending a single soldier, you can take over the Gua army, and you can also kick me, this eye-catcher, out. It's just a pity, you're too stupid, you don't even know that Wan Bao and Lin Jiao are my people. It's a pity that I'm a girl, otherwise in this era of heroes fighting for hegemony, there would be no part for you guys. This is the first time I heard my mother mention Pingdu Pass. I didn't expect there to be these hidden stories. I've said it before, my mother is a cruel person. Humph, poisonous, poisonous woman. Father spat out a mouthful of blood, glaring at mother. Mother smiled. So what? I'll still laugh until the end. You don't have a son, I have one daughter, that's enough. You want it. I chuckled. Father, I want to be emperor, are you happy? October 8th, National Mourning. Ziruaiji won a great victory, captured King Tan, Shushong was free from disaster. The princes rebelled, poisoned the emperor and his 2 younger brothers, and Lin Sanyang committed suicide by banging her head during the palace coup. The great incident happened overnight. The only surviving adult children of the emperor were 3 princesses, of which the 2nd princess had married far away, and the 3rd princess had been frightened and gone mad during the palace coup. There were many people in the imperial court who wanted to act, but fearing the military power in my hands, they did not dare to act rashly. I sent someone to bring Lin Jiao back, and now the eyes of the ministers were all focused on the child in her womb, only hoping to give birth to a prince, so that Great Zhou would have a successor. The Empress Dowager brought troops and horses, invited the royal family members, pointed at Lin Jiao's belly and established her as the crown prince, then took out the imperial father's will to appoint me as the regent while he was still alive. October 19th, I officially became regent. With the support of the Gua family and the 4 great families of Guanlong, no one in the imperial court would dare to compete with me. At this moment, I was only one step away from the most noble position in the world. I promised Wang Yu 3 years, I would definitely be able to return a peaceful and prosperous country to Great Zhou. No one in the imperial court would dare to stop me from ascending the throne. The day after the court session ended, I pulled Wang Yu up the city wall together. The distant mountains were deep green, the sky was blue and the clouds were white. Zi Hui, look, this is the country I conquered for you. Historical records. Zhou Taizong, the eldest daughter of Gaozu, was good at war, well-versed in military affairs, and had never lost a battle in her entire life. In the 7th year of Jiading, Gaozu's third son rebelled, forged an imperial edict, and killed his 2 elder brothers, and Taizong put an end to it. Taizong was a benevolent person, kind and loving to the people, and had deep feelings for her husband, which was praised by the people as a legend. End.